Hello and welcome to the Federal. Today we have with us TM Krishna, a voice which has rendered some beautiful Carnatic music and a voice which has become a voice of protest and dissent. Hello Mr. Krishna.
Hello.
Do you think being a Brahmin has empowered you to give a voice against the community and it has made people sit up and listen to you? Do you think your voice has got more traction from those who belong from inside the community?
Well, let's first understand caste, right? The fact of the matter is that when a Brahmin rejects caste, it's an ideological position, it's an intellectual position, it's an emotional position. But the fact is, the benefit of being a Brahmin, the benefit of the access that I get because I'm a Brahmin, the cultural, within quotes, acceptability, respect, all that I get will never go away from my life. So, I think we upper caste cannot make a bravado of being against caste. I want to say that straight. So, therefore, it's important for upper caste people to realize that taking a position against caste, against the Brahminical idea is not something to pat our backs about. It is a self-realization process. Therefore, it's an inner awakening, but that doesn't ever take away the benefit for all my life. Therefore, I should keep that in mind when I speak about caste. It's a privilege that, and it's a danger, and it is something I have to be very careful and conscious about. And exactly because I have the privilege of being upper caste is why I'm listened to. You see, that's the way the double whammy happens, right? So the only reason people are listening to me, or the only reason people shout and are angry with me, is because I have privilege. Is because I'm an insider, because I'm a Brahmin, because I'm an upper caste person who's saying all this is bunkum and rubbish. And that is why you would pay attention to me. Isn't that still problematic? It shouldn't be that way. You should pay attention to the people who truly are affected by caste, who are truly affected by oppression of every sort, economic, social, cultural, religious. But we upper caste don't pay attention to those real voices. So unfortunately, my privilege is the reason why people respond to me. So this is the complex mess.
Do you think that then you are trying to say that the voices from the marginalized are not heard, or you are heard more? What?
That's the truth. The fact of the matter is, among the upper caste community, the elite community, the cultural elite, the fact is that unfortunately my voice is heard more, which is why when I'm critiqued by many times, by the way, by Dalit community members and people working in caste, that my presence is also a problem. And I think there is some truth to it. There is some truth to the fact that me giving voice also means somebody's voice is not heard, right? At the same time, to then say that people like me have no business engaging with this is also problematic. So I think it's a fence walk. It's a very delicate fence walk, and I think it's important that we are kept in check. I think it's very important that people like me are kept in check. People like me are criticized. People like me are questioned, and always reminded that you cannot, in the name of fighting caste, take away the voice of the people who really need to be listened to. So we have to be facilitators of it, or sometimes just get into the background and listen. Just like they say in gender, the job of the man is to listen. In caste, the job of the upper caste is also to listen.
This is a process which has been happening for centuries in the country. How different, what is the difference you're going to bring to it?
I don't know. I mean, if you ask me for a solution, I don't have a solution. I can just say that the only thing where I think I can participate actively is looking at culture with more dynamism. And when I say culture, cultural habits, cultural practice and art, I think one thing that has not been thought of actively as shall we say a bridge, a catalyst for bringing conversation, contestation, disagreement and realization is art and culture. In this country, I don't think we've really had political ideologies or political ideas that have really used it. I mean, if you look at the way the left have used art, they've used art like a propaganda tool. similar to the Dravidian movement. I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying there is so much art and culture in different communities. Can the experience of that, can the bridges created between that, can common platforms, can the subversion of space, subversion of ideas, find a way by which people start relating to each other, understanding each other, disagreeing with each other. So I think I'm not saying that I'm saying anything new. I just think that there is a great possibility for culture and art to be a far more active, far more robust participant in this discourse of caste or gender discrimination. And that is something I think in this country we have not really explored seriously. I'm not talking about using it as a tool. I'm talking about allowing it to spread, allowing it to talk by itself. And I'm talking about tradition. I'm talking about traditional practices. I'm talking about things that happen in villages, in towns, in communities, among caste groups. See, art itself to a large extent is also caste limited. You can almost identify art forms within caste groups. So maybe the tool way to understand different groups is the art then, because that's the way I understand the world. Truth is, that's truth. I understand the world through art, through sound, through light, through movement. So that's the only thing I can bring on to the table is that possibility.
So your attempt to use culture and art as a vehicle for social change, these two very concepts are under attack the most in recent times.
Yeah.
So that makes, besides being a forward caste person who's a Brahmin who's getting into this conversation, that also you are under attack, and the concept of art and culture that is under tremendous attack under the current political climate. How do you think you will work around this?
First of all, I think, truth be told, historically from independence, I think this country has done great disservice to the idea of diversity. I think that is important to state. We keep talking about diversity, talking about the different languages in this country and all that, yes. But the truth is the majority narrative of what Indian culture is, or Indian art is, has been driven by upper caste ideas in this country. Let's be very honest to first acknowledge that, irrespective of who is in power, it has been an upper caste notion of Indian culture. So this feeds directly and conveniently to the present dispensation and the BJP and the RSS and the VHP. So in fact, the fodder is already there, okay, and they know to manipulate it and use it in a way that nobody else knows. So everything that they are saying about Indian art and culture is casteist. It's patriarchal, and that's what they want. Let's be very clear. And everything that I hope to engage in is to subvert every one of those structures. So there is going to be a conflict there. To them, Carnatic music is an emblem of India in its present idea. For me, no, it is not. It's one little speck in the possibility we call India. So it is important, I think, that in fact, let me put it this way, in such a juncture when homogeneity is what is being sought by Mr. Narendra Modi's government and all his stooges across the country, it's important that an active puncturing of every one of these very problematic and dangerous notions happens. And I do hope I can puncture a few of them.
See, inclusivity of music was something which has been happening in Carnatic music and Indian culture music scene for a long time. It has been tried and tested. So why do you want to attempt it again?
First of all, it's not inclusive. Who told you? That's a lie. Big bogus. If you think that Indian upper caste culture or upper elite classical culture has been inclusive, we are lying to ourselves. Now, I'm even shocked when people tell me this. I feel like telling them, go to an auditorium and do a caste check if you want. Look at the lists of concerts that happen and tell me what caste groups you find. And you know, this whole, it's very interesting. For the upper caste person, there's only two castes. Let me restructure the statement. For a Brahmin, there's only two castes, Brahmin and non-Brahmin. That itself is such a dangerous position to take, right? You have completely conflated the diversity of people in one word, and you're the only other. Isn't that itself structurally problematic? Now, to your question, has there been inclusivity? No. Now, the fact is that all classical cultures have in their very nature been either racist, casteist, or colorblind and patriarchal, all across the globe. This is not unique of this country. When people, in order to counter my argument, start naming 4 or 5 musicians who are not in the Brahmin community, not for a moment are they thinking about what all those people had to do even to get acceptability. Not for a moment are they going and having a conversation once with a Tamil Vidwan or Nadaswara Vidwan in private and saying, is it easy for you? Not once. Yet you just pat yourself on your back and say, look, of course there are so many people of the caste, look, I have allowed them. That's so honestly disgusting. So sometimes I don't know what to say. Honestly, at times I'm baffled. I'm saying you don't need to even accept my way of looking at it or my approach to it. But to be in denial that there is casteism in classical art in India is to me baffling. That how can you even say, this is like saying there is no gender inequality in India. Why? We've had prime ministers who are women, we've had chief ministers women, we have CEOs women, CFOs women, so there's no gender problem at all. Every corporate house is absolutely equal because you have CEOs. This is exactly like that, right? What have these women had to do to fight off the patriarchy and the male dominations in every one of these structures? We never look. So we are not inclusive. And I want to reframe that word, inclusive is always a very kind of a tricky word, because somewhere in inclusivity there seems to be an act of, for me, in the sound of the word, it's my interpretation. In the sound of the word, there's almost an act of, condescension, and I'm being inclusive, as if I'm doing somebody a favor. It's not. Inclusivity is the absence of exclusivity. That's all.
So taking that forward, do you think that I've never seen a Muslim Carnatic musician, whereas in Hindustani there are more. Are they more acceptable or
so we have
less caste regimented?
No. Let's be very careful here. First, there have been very few Muslim musicians in Carnatic music. Nadaswara Vidwan, for example, Sheikh Chinna Maulana, his children. Now there is, of course, Mehbooba, and there are a few. Other than that, very few. We know, for example, that Kunnakudi Mastan Sahib, a Sufi saint from this city of Chennai, his dargah is in Tondiapet, that area, has composed in Carnatic tunes. Those tunes are not known to us. Some are being sung by, in fact, one very elderly musician called Abu Bakr, who lives in Chennai. He sings some of them in many of these ragas. Other than that, we know of hardly any. Now this is where we be careful. The immediate comparison with Hindustani music. Now, the battle against the Hindustani Muslim musician was identical to the battle against the Isai Vellalar, Nadaswara Vidwan and the Devadasis of the south. Mr. Bhatkande and Paluskar ran a battle to reclaim, within quotes, Indian art and culture from the Muslims. Just like in the south, the upper caste Brahmins wanted to reclaim the purity of South Indian Carnatic music from the Devadasis and the Isai Vellalar. So in a way, there is a mirroring happening. Also, caste doesn't disappear because your religion is something else. So let's be very careful about caste. Muslims are also casteist. Christians are also casteist. Hindus also casteist. Okay. So we have to be very careful. Therefore, if the acceptability of Muslims within especially the Khyal domain, Drupad also, has also been largely because there's been history of a lot of the Muslim gharanas evolved from the courts. But if you're going to actually look at the last 30 years of Hindustani Khyal music, all the singers are more and more Maharashtrian Brahmins. So you have to ask yourself, where are the singers from the Muslim community? Now, there are few, I'm not saying there are few, but to a large extent, it's moved to upper caste Maharashtrian domains. So what has happened there? Whereas in instrumental music, you still have some of the Muslim Islamic musicians participating. In vocal music, there seems to be a very clear shift. So, to say there is no casteism in Hindustani music is definitely a lie. To say there is no discrimination is also a lie. Why it feels that way is because the religiosity in Carnatic music is right there at your face. And because that religiosity is not there at your face in Hindustani music, there is a feeling of it being less casteist and less religious. But the notion of Indian Hindu spirituality and the acceptance of that by everybody, irrespective of your belief system, is as much a pressure in Hindustani music as it is in Carnatic music.
We hope that too, Mr. Krishna. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a
Lovely
lot.
talking to you. Such a pleasure.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a ton.